And welcome back to the Scarlet to the Land podcast. I'm your host, Cody Croy, of course, joined by Big Jake and Ryan Angelo. Ryan, we want to welcome you. Just tell everyone a little bit about yourself and, what you want to bring here to this podcast.
So thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it very, very much. I'm excited to be here. I think you guys are building something very, very great, and I'm excited to add to that. But I am 40 years old. I'm from Ohio. I've got two boys. Obviously, diehard Browns fan, Buckeyes fan, and I'm just like I said, I'm just excited to be here and add to what you guys have built and see what we can take it to.
We're really excited to have you on this Browns episode. We got to talk about things that have been happening in training camp, things that we expect to see ahead of the matchup against the Chicago Bears in Saturday's preseason matchup at 1 o'clock. Looking at this rookie class, guys like Denzel Boston, Emmanuel McNeil-Boren, those guys have really stuck out training camp for the Browns. Just your guys' thoughts on this rookie class and what we expect to see from them on Saturday.
When it comes to this wide receiver room, Denzel Boston has taken everybody by storm, it seems like, and that's dating back to the first week of training camp. I think Casey Concepcion as well has really, come into his own. I'm starting to believe Luke Floria is going to make this team. It just seems like that guy's all over the field making plays. So I'm definitely curious on how many wideouts they're going to keep. And, when it comes to Spencer Fano, Coach Monken said that, he solidified himself as the starting left tackle after that fight with Jared Verse. So that was great. Love seeing guys push each other. And so, that's where I'm at with this team right now. And the rookie class is shaping up to be another good one.
Yeah, I would echo the same sentiments, but I think the biggest thing for us is the excitement with the left tackle position. Spencer Fano coming in out of, Utah and just bringing that animal mentality that we've been desperately needing at that position for quite some time now. It's just been refreshing to see him going at it with a veteran like Jared Verse. And the offensive line in general, I think, is going to be a huge thing to watch for us here in the preseason because they brought in a lot of people. They spent a lot of money on it on this offseason. And, it's going to be exciting to see what happens with that moving forward.
Offensive line, that's been one of the things that, the Browns, they've seemed to have figured out here ahead of this preseason matchup. Spencer Fano, Zion Johnson, Elton Jenkins, you have Titus Howard and Tevin Jenkins. That seems to be the offensive line that the Browns are going to roll with. Moving on from the players, we got to talk about the coaches in this preseason matchup. Todd Monken, Mike Rutenberg, Travis Schweitzer, new guys that the Browns are bringing in on the staff. What do we need to see from these coaches as we prepare for this preseason matchup?
When it comes to Travis and Todd, I'm really just looking for these guys, to be on the same page together because Todd already confirmed when he was hired in, he'll be calling the plays. As we've been reading about training camp, we have been hearing that the pre-snap penalties are still a problem. I don't know what's going on with this whole cadence thing, if they can't understand the quarterbacks trying to call these things out. But I'm hoping by, this weekend on Saturday, they get some of that figured out. And when it comes to Rutenberg, I just want to see these guys flying around, making hits. Quincy Williams, I don't think we'll see him a whole lot, but he had his best seasons under Mike Rutenberg in New York. So I'm really looking forward to see how these linebackers are flying around. The secondary is my biggest concern right now. I'm sure we'll get into a lot more with that. But with the new coaching staff, there's going to be mistakes out there. Get everybody on the same page and keep it moving.
Yeah, I mean, this is preseason, so we're really looking for development moving forward here in the next couple of weeks, right? We're looking for a little bit of clarity at the quarterback position. They've got Deshaun Watson and Shadur Sanders listed on the depth chart as like an or situation. He's not really trying to show his hand, obviously. But I'm really excited to see how Monken handles this situation because, on one hand, you have a guy in Deshaun Watson who has clearly proven that he can do it in the league at one point in his career. But he's been struggling since then. And, it sounds like he hasn't been very consistent in this training camp. That doesn't look, necessarily bode well for him moving forward. I think right now it's probably going to be Shadur Sanders when things are all said and done. I think they're trying to give Deshaun that little bit of leeway and freedom moving forward, just because he is here. They've spent the money on him. They kind of have to at that point. You have to give the veteran the shot to win the job, and if he doesn't, then I think it's time to move on. I think that project is over, and like I said, I think it's going to be Shedeur, but I'm excited to see how Monken handles it. I'm excited to see him utilize the young talent on this offense in his system and build around that.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. The quarterback battle. That's as we get into position battles. That's one that everyone is going to be watching. Deshaun Watson, acquired from the Houston Texans. It has been a disastrous run for him in his tenure with the Browns. He in practice, he's thrown I think 9 interceptions already. Yeah, not good, not good at all. It's not too uncommon to see starters play a few preseason reps, but for Watson, this looks different because you're not, it's not to knock the rust off. It's to establish himself as the starter, and ideally, he should already be the starter. But with that in mind, what do we need to see from these quarterbacks? As we, uh, you know, go into the preseason.
I mean, this is Todd Monken's first head coaching job in the NFL. I think Todd's trying to win games, obviously. So if Deshaun is clearly the best quarterback in camp, and then say he goes out there and does the same thing in preseason, I don't think Monken really cares about anything else. I think that's really the strongest argument for Deshaun Watson. But my issue at the same time is what we've seen in training camp. I mean, we've been able to see a lot of clips. We've heard from people that are there. He hasn't been a lot better than Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders, and that really tells me everything that I need to know. We can't sit here and make, the money argument anymore. This guy hasn't played 8 consecutive games in 6 years. So I think it's kind of just a wasted piece at this point. I wish that this was over, but I can understand if Monken thinks that this guy is his best option to win, he's going to play him.
Yeah, I agree. I'm obviously on the downhill on Deshaun, but he does have the talent. He has the arm strength. He is able to do things, moving the pocket. He's able to throw on the run. He does things quite a bit differently than some of the quarterbacks in the NFL. But consistency is the key, right? And we're not getting that from him. And I think that you're really going to see over these next couple of weeks which way we're going to start leaning. Because if the consistency for Deshaun continues to go the way that it is, after training camp into the preseason, I don't think it's going to look well for him. And I think Monken's going to have a very hard decision at the quarterback position. Does he want to put the most talented guy out there, or does he want to put the most consistent guy out there? And that's the dilemma that he has moving forward. But the Browns need consistency. They need it badly. We haven't had it for probably close to a decade, and it just has to happen. This is the time. They've got the offensive pieces moving forward. They've spent the money. It's got to happen at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. You're looking for consistency at the quarterback position. With that in mind, we've perceived it as a 2-man race between Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders. Dylan Gabriel's not out of this race. Like, Dylan Gabriel could end up winning this job. I don't expect it, but it is possible. Where do the Browns go if Dylan Gabriel does win this job?
That's a good question. I personally, as of right now, don't necessarily think that he's in the running for the starting job. I do think it's between Deshaun and Shedeur, but I think they are liking what they're seeing from him as a QB2. I think if you hit on him being a backup quarterback, that works out for the Browns. My thing about Shedeur Sanders is I don't think the Browns want to keep him around as a backup. So I feel like if Deshaun Watson does win this job, I would not be shocked if we see Shedeur Sanders traded out of Cleveland. If Gabriel doesn't take that obvious second step to be our backup, that's a different case. But I think that's why you're seeing him get the everyday QB2 snaps.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's some pressure there. If Deshaun does win this job, you've got somebody behind him in Shedeur that carries a certain level of name recognition with him, just based on who his dad is, Dion, and there's going to be a small population of the Browns fan base that are going to be pushing for him every single time whoever's in front of him makes a mistake. And I think that's problematic for the Browns. That's a very dicey situation for Monken in his first season. So I do agree that if Deshaun was to win this position battle, Shador's probably going to be the odd man out, and I think they're going to run with that. But I just, for some reason, I feel like Shador's going to pull this out. As far as Dylan goes, I just think he's too limited currently. He has a lot of development that he needs to do, and the size is a big deal. And I know a lot of people say, oh, well, size is size, and look at Drew Brees and all these guys that have been small in the league. But it makes a difference. It really does. And unless you are a caliber player of a Drew Brees, it makes a difference in your game. But I do agree with what Jake is saying.
Yeah, Drew Brees, that it's funny you mentioned that, just inducted into Canton, and I think, the closest that Dylan Gabriel's going to get to Canton is working at McDonald's. So enough about that. We got to talk about, other things that have transpired in training camp. One thing that I love that, I don't know everyone's thoughts on this, but a fight broke out between newly acquired defensive lineman Jared Verse and rookie offensive lineman Spencer Fano. That's awesome. I love hearing that. I love the fire from Fano, from Jared Verse. I'm going to go to Ryan here. Just your take on that, and what that can do for a rookie and who's trying to vibe with the team and establish himself on the roster.
Yeah, I mean I've got a lot of experience coaching football, not at the NFL level, obviously, but it is always nice when you have somebody come in and set the tone for you in a training camp or in any week coming up towards a game, right? And this guy's come in here and he's put his foot down and he said, I'm here to make a difference. And I don't care who's across from me. I am not scared of you. I am going to make a difference for this football team, and I'm going to bring something here that this team has been lacking on the offensive line for a while. And it's just that ugliness, that fire, that determination, and they need that. And I think it's amazing that he's come in and done that. And I think it's right up the alley of what the Browns really wanted him for when they drafted him, because he's just that hard-nosed, gritty football player that is not afraid of anything, and he is going to give you every piece of effort, sweat, blood, and tears that he has. And it's exciting. It really is.
We know in camp young tackles are going to get beat, especially when you're talking about a guy like Jared Verse across for you. I love to watch how he's handling the speed and the power of Jared Verse. And, I think it's big to watch what happens after he loses a rep. Verse is such a just extraordinary leader. You go listen to his teammates in L.A. They raved about this guy's leadership. And I think, honestly, Verse was getting him riled up, which caused that all to go down that way. I don't think there was no bad blood between those guys at all. I think he wanted to see if he could get that out of Spencer. He wants that dog in him. That's what you need out of a franchise left tackle, and that's exactly what he got. Fano proved a lot to me there, and I'm very excited about him being our left tackle.
Absolutely. Just looking at training camp again, I want to talk about our rookie wide receivers, Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston. Denzel Boston is a guy that, reports have come out that this guy has been an absolute freak in training camp. Whoever the quarterback is going to have these weapons, whether it be Boston, whether it be Concepcion, whether it be Harold Fannin, second-year tight end. How exciting is that for the Browns that they actually have some guys that we could look forward to as pass catchers, and even Jerry Jeudy, who has looked, at times good in a Browns uniform.
Yeah, I'm really excited about Casey. I think, when he was coming out, there was a lot of concern about his drops, which was completely understandable. I was one of those guys until I really sat down and watched his tape and realized a lot of that looked like he was just trying to make moves before he was actually seeing the ball in. I thought you did see that early in training camp with him. He did have a couple of drops, and now you're seeing that explosive yak He's making insane grabs. He's just such a good athlete. He's very explosive, and he's seeing the ball in, and he's making some extraordinary catches. So I was just talking with somebody today about the whole Harold Fannin situation. I don't think he's going to go catch 72 balls again this year because you have two really good wideouts in Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston, in my opinion, two first-round talent wide receivers that are going to come in, and I think that's going to be an explosive duo, and I think Andrew Berry actually just finally hit it out of the park with some playmakers for this offense.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hope, right? I mean, we've finally got some weapons that we've been desperately needing on the offense. They got it last year out of the run game with Quinshawn Judkins, and now they've added the receiver room to it. So they've addressed that need. They've addressed the weakness. And I'm really excited about Denzel just because, at the size that he has at 6'4", 215 pounds, the Browns really needed somebody that they could throw the ball up to, and somebody who has good body control, who can high point the ball. And they were missing that. And, when you're just relying on someone like Jerry Jeudy and you don't have a lot of depth behind that, it's very hard for that guy to perform at the level that he should be when he's the only one getting the ball. You're running into, double teams, triple teams. And now that they've got guys with AC and Denzel that can spread the field a little bit more, set up the run better. I think it's with KC, I think he's going to end up being what they were hoping that Isaiah Bond was going to be, right? That fast guy, that guy that they can put in the slot, that can really just burn up matches or mismatches with linebackers and, safeties. It's an exciting time. I'm trying to be cautiously optimistic about the wide receiver room because I think it's really going to hinge on consistency at the quarterback position, right? If we get the consistency from that quarterback position and we have somebody there that is getting the ball out on time and getting the ball out accurately, we could be very dangerous on offense.
It's interesting you brought up Isaiah Bond because that's a guy that, I'm also excited to watch this year. He went undrafted for things that transpired off the field. The Browns signed him and, he's been solid in a Browns uniform. So, it's interesting to get a player that is similar to him in Denzel Boston. And again, Casey Concepcion, a guy that, I'm very high on. But with those guys in mind, I want to revert back to the preseason. I just want to talk about the keys to the game. What are we going to look for in this game against the Chicago Bears?
Move the ball, right? I want to see good push from the offensive and defensive lines. I would like to see the ball move no matter who's in the backfield. And just some consistency with the offensive flow. That's really all I care about outside of staying healthy. The results of the game does not matter. I want to see Monken put the rookie class in position to succeed early and really lean on that money that they put into the offensive line to see if it could be the difference maker that they're hoping it's going to be this year.
Yeah, I'm with you. My number one key is pretty simple. Play clean football. I want to see a lot cleaner football this year, especially offensively. I don't care if the final score is we win by 20 or we lose by 20. I care about whether this offense has made improvements and looks functional at this level. We've heard throughout camp about penalties. Obviously, I talked about that earlier. I want to see how we go into this game because I'm sure Monken's really harping on that this week. This is a game week. Regardless of, what people feel about preseason, these guys are fighting for their jobs, and we're getting close to real football. You gotta start getting these things down. You have to line up correctly. Don't jump early. People are going to lose their spots if they do those things, So I would expect this to really be a game that we can really look at things and say, okay, like we've heard about all these issues the past couple of weeks, but now we're seeing it in game. Maybe it's not as bad as we thought it was, which that would tell us, this coaching staff is doing a good job, making these improvements. And for me, from what I'm seeing, it just sounds like it's a cadence problem. It doesn't really sound like the offensive line's just making these mistakes. So the quarterback's got to get it figured it out, whether that is Dylan Gabriel, Deshaun Watson, or Shedeur Sanders.
One thing I want to talk about, if anybody is going to hold these guys accountable, it's Todd Monken. And I saw a clip earlier, I think it was earlier today, of Kevin Stefanski in Atlanta. And he sounded pretty vanilla, not going to lie. He did not sound very motivated. So it's nice just having a guy that, is not afraid to yell at his players and hold these guys accountable. I don't know if you guys saw that clip. If you guys did, I do want to get your thoughts on that because I found that to be pretty funny.
Yeah, that's one of the big reasons I was pretty much just done with the whole Stefanski thing. Honestly, he spent a lot of time here. We had some good things happen under him and also some not good things that happened under him. And just the vanilla approach, every loss on a Sunday, we're listening to the same thing. I mean, I'm not comparing him to Hugh Jackson when I say this, but it started sounding real Hugh-like, like he never gave us answers to anything. I love how Todd Monken is so upfront. He's like, I'm going to do what I want to do. And I love that. And I did watch that clip and I said the same thing. I was like, this guy he brings no emotion. If you've played sports, I played football, basketball, baseball, I box. I want to play or train under a person that's getting that dog out of me. And I just don't see that with Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah, it's like that head in the sand approach, right? He doesn't want to say too much, he doesn't want to say too little, but he really gives you nothing every time he talks. And for when you have a team that's struggling, that's not what you want out of your coach. And when you have a team that's successful, yeah, it might be okay. But the Browns have needed fire for a while, and he just wasn't the right fit there, And when you've got a coach who puts his head in the sand after things go wrong, it's a quick way to lose your fan base, because especially in Cleveland, because they expect answers when things go wrong, right? And I think where Monken is going to be different is he brings that old school approach to football where he expects greatness, he expects effort, he expects intensity, and he's going to let you know if you're not giving that to him. And I think he's going to let us know in media sessions and interviews exactly what type of mentality this football team is going to come out of the tunnel with. And
Right.
that was something that we were just begging for from Stefanski, but he just never gave that to us. And he's just a different type of coach. And like I said, when it's not going well, it doesn't work. When it's going well, you can get away with it. But he just never really adjusted to what they needed in Cleveland. And I think it's a good move for Monken to come in and just really flip the mentality over and add that leadership and that grit to the building that they were desperately needing.
Absolutely. I want to end this episode strong. I want to get your guys' score predictions for this game on Saturday at 1 o'clock. My prediction, I'm going to say, give me 21-14 Bears.
Don't mind it. 21-14. I'm gonna say 26-21 Browns. Weird stuff happens in preseason. I do just kind of want to bring this up and also get both of your thoughts on this, because we heard Todd Monken say, the starting offense he wants to see in a series out there and defense, whatever. Does that mean whoever's starting quarterback, it's only going to get that one series? I wouldn't think that. If this is a real competition, I would expect to see the majority of Shador and Deshaun going at it, and then you'll get Dylan Gabriel and a little bit of Taylor Green.
I agree with you, Jake. I think that, we're looking at maybe a 24-17 Browns victory. It's like Jake said, everything's weird in preseason. There's so much rotation. It's hard to build chemistry in the preseason just because you're trying to get as many guys in and out as you can. You're trying to let guys earn their position, earn their money, but at the same time, you're trying to field a competent football team. So it's a delicate balance in the preseason. And, like Jake said, you never know what's going to happen, but I think it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, you said it, those starters are only supposed to play one series, but we don't even know who the starting quarterback is. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question to pose, and I don't know. I don't know, but that is how we will end this episode on a question that will be answered on Saturday. But this has been the Scarlet to the Land podcast.